This is Raf from RPMed. Now, in today's video, we'll learn how to convert all your facts into long-term memory to put that into your knowledge bank. Before we get started, I do have one small favor to ask from you. And that is, if you like the video, of course, give a thumbs up and subscribe. Now, as you know, this takes very little effort from you, and even though I don't make any money from it, what it does do is gives me a huge amount of motivation and a big encouragement to keep on making these videos with the aim of helping you. With that said, let's get started with today's video. In the previous video, we've learned about the association memory technique, and that is essentially the backbone and the foundation, the core skill of any memory skills known to man. Now, you will have noticed that it helps you very easily remember a list of things in a very short period of time. But also at the same time, you may have also noticed that that memory doesn't seem to last very long either. Now, why is this? And that is because you haven't taken yourself through the process of memory consolidation. What is memory consolidation? Memory consolidation is a process by which you convert your short-term memory into long-term memory. And there is only one way of achieving that, and that is through repetition. I know, it's very discouraging, I know. Gosh, repetition. But it really is the only way to do it, and this is why. You may have seen this graph in the past, and it essentially outlines the pattern of your memory over time. And it shows you that without any repetition, you'll eventually forget everything that you've learned. And even with 1 or 2 sessions, you'll also forget a lot of things. It is only after the 3rd and the 4th revision sessions that you will remember a substantial amount of the material that you have covered. Now, what we want to achieve is the maximum efficiency. We want to spend as little time as possible to memorize as much as possible. So how do we do that? The method for doing that is called spaced repetition method. Now, spaced repetition method is a method of timing your revision so that it is most advantageous to you. How do we know what that time is? Well, it depends. It depends on the person, and it depends on how you form the memory. So if it's a memory or a fact that is very easy for you to remember, then that's different from memory that's very hard, that was very difficult for you to form. It is based around the principle that the memory formation is the strongest when the revision takes place just before you forget that little fact. How do we achieve that? How do we know when's the right time then? Well, it really requires your own feedback to yourself. Okay, so if when you review something, you find it's very difficult for you to recall, then you should review that sooner rather than later. And if you found that the recall of a fact was very, very easy for you, then you can review that. You can leave the review time to a later time for that particular fact. In principle, that's simple and easy. Now, how do we actually go about doing this in a practical manner? By far, the most effective way that I've seen, that I have experienced also, is the use of study cards. Study card system is what a lot of the people around me during medical school and in my medical career have used and have seen a lot of success from. However, there are 2 main problems with using study cards. Okay? The first is that it can become very bulky because it will be written in individual cards about this big, with a question at the front and answer at the back. You need one for each question answer sets, and that number can build up to 50 to 100 cards per subject. And if you're studying 5 to 6 subjects, then that's up to 600 cards that you have to carry around with you. Obviously, that's very bulky, very heavy, easy to forget. It can get damaged while you're transporting it. And that leads us to problem number 2. And problem is that you have to have those cards with you in order for you to revise it. How do we get around these 2 problems? Well, I used a software-based study card system, and the best one by far was Anki. Okay? It's a freely available software that's free to download, free to use. It's multi-platform, so it's available for your PC, Mac. It's available on mobile platforms, so Android and iOS. And it's also available as a web-based form, so you don't have to install any software. You can just go to a website and start revising. And what's also neat is that it synchronizes your progress and your timing across all of the platforms. How great is that? So you can study when you have 3 or 5 minutes even. So when you're traveling somewhere on the tram, the bus, or the train, and you have 5 to 10 minutes, take out your phone, go through 2 or 3 cards, repeat that 10 to 20 times a day. That'd be 1 to 2 hours per day, and then you have your revision done. So I'll show you how this works on my iPad. This is a snapshot of the Anki app on my iPad. What you see here are all the decks that I have of study cards. When you click into one of them, it will take you straight into one of the questions. So the first card on the front segment will be the question. This is what you see on the top. And then you tap on the screen after you've answered it, and then you see the answer that you've prepared for yourself. And you compare how accurate your answer is, and you also need to pay attention to how easy it was for you to recall. Now, if you couldn't remember it at all, obviously, then you need to repeat it sooner. However, if it was very easy for you to recall, you can repeat it later, and you can use that by pressing one of the 4 buttons at the bottom. The one that's red and says 10M, that's 10 minutes. That denotes that it was very difficult for me to remember, therefore let's repeat this problem again in 10 minutes. And on the other side will typically be a green button with varying amount of minutes or days or months even. And that denotes the fact that it was very easy for you to remember it, therefore you can review it at a much later time. So there you have it. Now you have the tools to make solid short-term memory and to convert that into long-term memory so that you can store these facts away into your knowledge bank. Remember that studying is just like any other skill. You need the discipline and you need practice. But what is great is that over time, if you keep at it, it will become easier and easier for you, and things will take a shorter and shorter amount of time. If you have any other questions, or if you have any suggestions, any material that you want me to go through in the follow-up video, please do leave a comment down below. If you like the video, give me a quick thumbs up and consider subscribing. It's been Raf from RP Med. Take it easy and see you in the next one. Bye bye.